Welcome to another Blazor Power Hour. I'm Ed Charbonneau. We do this show from time to time, trying to get back on a regular schedule after traveling quite a bit. Been really busy preparing for .NET Conf, and that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. So .NET Conf, if you're not familiar, is a yearly event now that .NET releases every year in November. I think we started doing that in .NET 6, and we're getting ready to drop .NET 8 November, looks like the 14th. And with that release is a 3-day conference that has quite a large selection of sessions. That starts off with some keynote style sessions on day one. We've got sessions, breakout style sessions on day two that are from the Microsoft folks, mainly the .NET engineering teams. And then the community jumps in on day two, and there are live streams from the community all day long. And when I mean all day long, day 2 and day 3 of this event are streaming 24 hours a day. So that is 48 sessions. No, sorry, they're 30 minutes long. So that is 96 sessions that are streamed over a 2-day period. It is quite a bit of content to take in. So I thought I'd take a few minutes this afternoon to walk through the schedule and point out things that might interest Blazor developers. And there is quite a bit of content that is Blazor specific or Blazor adjacent. Doesn't mean like don't try to catch as much of the .NET Conf as you can, because there's going to be wonderful content about .NET for 3 days straight. And it's just, you have to kind of strategize a little bit to take it all in and prioritize things, because it is too much for one person to watch over a 2-3 day period, because it's streaming literally 24 hours a day for 2 days. It's just way too much. So we'll go through step by step here and kind of mark down some of the things that you might want to add to your schedule being a Blazor developer, and tune into those things. The first day isn't the 24-hour event yet. So with that said, I would recommend probably watching the entire first day, but we'll take a look at each agenda item and see how it might play into the Blazor world. The first session is going to be a welcome to .NET 8. It won't be probably Blazor specific. There'll be some mentions in here, but it's a nice chance to virtually meet the team behind .NET. You can see quite a few names up on the roster here, and these are all folks that are very involved with program management on the .NET team. So there'll be a good overview of all things that are coming in .NET 8, and probably some roadmap items for beyond .NET 8 as well. So highly recommend tuning into that. And then, of course, this goes without saying, the first session up on the keynote day is going to be full stack web UI with Blazor in .NET 8. This is going to be a high-level overview, I would imagine, with lots of examples that show off the new rendering capabilities that are in .NET 8 with Blazor. So in .NET 8, there was an initiative to have what was kind of coined Blazor United. That's not a product name or anything like that. It's more of a strategy that the team was looking at with Blazor and how to do rendering with Blazor. So we don't have a dividing line between Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly anymore, instead uniting the platform as a whole and letting ASP.NET Core do what it does best, and that is pre-render content, serve web content directly to the browser, and possibly switch automatically between Blazor on the server and Blazor WebAssembly without too much intervention from developers. So we're going to get a high-level overview of that, and I think some really good examples of how the technology plays out in .NET 8. So we should see Blazor static rendering, which is serving Blazor content directly from an ASP.NET server without any sort of interactivity, no SignalR, no WebAssembly, just static HTML content that is generated from Razor components. With that, we can add interactivity for Blazor using Blazor Server or Blazor WebAssembly or auto render mode. So once the content is served up, if we want to interact with it, we can use SignalR to do some server-side interaction, or we can choose to do Blazor WebAssembly for client-side interaction. So definitely the session, if you can only spare an hour to learn something new about Blazor, this would be the session to attend. Hopefully you can add some more time to your schedule and watch these later on. If you're really pressed for time, this is the one though. Performance improvements with .NET 8 would be one of interest, I believe. We're going to see some significant improvements in .NET 8 as far as performance goes. So that would be helpful to Blazor devs. We've got just-in-time compilation, kind of compilation. It's called the JITterpreter, which is just-in-time interpretation, I guess. So that should probably be covered in this session, as well as maybe some of the highlights of the AOT improvements. There are specific sessions that break out into those performance improvements individually as well. This is more of a catch-all. It's got not just ASP.NET Core, which would include Blazor, but .NET 8 in general and MAUI as well. So maybe not the must-see track on the list, but definitely will have some Blazor in it. You'll learn a little bit about the performance improvements that came out of .NET 8. So if you have time, I would recommend that one as well. And of course, what's new in C# 12. If you are doing Blazor development, as we learned in the title up here, full stack web UI with Blazor .NET 8, which means you're going to be writing C# code on the client, on the server, everywhere you go, you're going to be writing C#. So learning what's new in C# 12 is going to be super helpful. There is a little bit of a teaser here as to what's in that C# 12. Collection expressions are kind of cool. Primary constructors really can cut down on some of your code, what do you call it, ceremony, which is nice. So it's definitely a good session to attend if you have time for that one. Entity framework in Core 8. This one, is another one. If you have time, it might be nice. I don't think there's a lot of Blazor applications out there that aren't using some sort of database, and seeing what Entity Framework Core 8 is capable of doing couldn't hurt. But, probably not one of the most important things as far as Blazor development goes, but it could touch some of that ASP.NET stack. And that is kind of the summary for day one. .NET MAUI might be of interest. I don't know if they're going to cover Blazor Hybrid in that. There are breakout sessions the next day that will. So unless you're really super interested in doing cross-platform on iOS and Android with XAML and whatnot, you might want to check that one out, or you may want to wait for one of the more direct Blazor hybrid sessions that comes later. I'm going to jump over into day two. There's still, lots of good things in day one, just not directly related to Blazor stuff. If you're doing DevOps, if you're doing Azure, that sort of thing, definitely check out some of these other sessions that are in day one. If you're part of the DevOps team on the Blazor app, then maybe check some of those out. All right. Day 2. We're on to day 2, and this is where things get crazy because every 30 minutes on day 2 for a full 24 hours, we have sessions. That means there are 48 sessions on day 2, and there's quite a bit of Blazor in here, and it's mixed in throughout the day. So again, I doubt people have this kind of time to watch day 2 in its completion in one day without sleeping. So with that said, we should probably break down what's going to be in what's going to be Blazor related in day 2. So I'm going to fast forward here to about 1:30, and we have in .NET 8 ASP.NET 8. It's an interesting title from 2 engineers over at Microsoft. Again, day 2 is going to be all Microsoft teams, probably engineering folks. So these are going to be really good sessions from the inside, insider knowledge of what's going on behind the scenes. Get roadmaps and new features from these folks. There's this one's kind of vague. It doesn't tell you a whole lot about what we're looking at as far as session content. It says all of the new features coming to the ASP.NET stack. That's quite a big, quite a big topic to bite off. But Safia and Steven from the Microsoft team work on ASP.NET, minimal APIs, things like that. So I'm sure we'll see some minimal API stuff in there and find out what's new with that. And there's some routing tools that are coming to .NET 8 that should be helpful. I think this is stuff to help like troubleshoot routing problems and display like lists of routes, things like that to help navigate ASP.NET apps. So that should be very helpful for Blazor developers. I would definitely check that out. Just knowing that these folks are presenting means that we're going to get some ASP.NET and Blazor related content in there. What's new in system.text.json? I can't tell you any .NET app that doesn't have some sort of interaction with JSON. You're using it for HTTP requests, you're using it for JavaScript interop, and it's kind of a performance pain point. Light Jack, welcome to the show. I'll give everybody a recap one more time as new people join in. But yeah, any Blazor app's going to have some kind of JSON interactivity with it. So why not find out what's new in .NET 8 in regards to system.text.json, and you're seeing a lot of this topic come up as well. So native AOT is something that you're going to see quite a bit of in .NET Conf. Yeah, so if you're doing any Blazor stuff, even if you use Newtonsoft, that's good. But if you're not doing networking, you're still going to run into JSON when you're doing JavaScript interop, even if you're not directly spelling out, hey, this is a JSON payload. It is serializing and deserializing things as JSON behind the scenes. So you want to learn a little bit about how performance is affected on a Blazor app through this. I'm just kind of speculating a little bit, but it should be helpful to most Blazor folks. And that's what we're doing. If you're just joining us, we're going through the agenda for .NET Conf. It's a packed 3 days, 96 plus sessions. I think it's 104 sessions total, something like that. So we're just trying to figure out, where should we prioritize? And that's what we're talking about this afternoon. So system.text.json. And then, as I mentioned, native AOT is going to be all over the place. Damian Edwards is talking next, so I'd block this hour together, maybe even this hour and a half, and check out .NET Conf on day 2, Wednesday, November 15th. Jump in at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time and kind of hang out for an hour and a half here. The native AOT stuff is talking about taking ASP.NET Core, kind of containerizing it, and allowing .NET apps to run on machines without .NET installed. There's some really interesting aspects here, some of which could possibly be applied to Blazor. So I would definitely check that out as well. Not the most knowledgeable of Blazor in general. You turned into the Blazor Power Hour. I thank you for being here, but hopefully you're looking at learning more about Blazor if you're here, because that's what we're going to talk about every time we have the show. I'm teasing. I'm glad you're here. Looking forward to .NET 8 and .NET Conf. Let's see. We've got... let's jump forward again. So we went up to 2:30. We're going to skip over to about 4 o'clock now. Visual Studio updates for .NET devs. This one, I would say, is going to be somewhat useful for Blazor devs. There's one topic in particular here that I think is interesting, and that's dev tunnels. This is a kind of a competitor to ngrok. Dev tunnels can be really handy in debugging, co-working with people on ASP.NET apps, and running Blazor hybrid applications that require a local host server that you're trying to debug along with your application. So yeah, dev tunnels is more than enough reason to jump in at 4 o'clock Eastern time and check out what is happening there. Oh, just learning, just done learning C# and learning a bachelor's degree. Congratulations on that. Keep up the good work. Happy to see people jumping into the field. Dev tunnels are awesome. Dev tunnels are awesome. So dev tunnels, basically you run localhost on your machine. You connect to dev tunnel and you can share that link outside of your machine on a local network, for example, and connect to your ASP.NET server from other devices. Oh, I misspoke. I said C# instead of C. Learning C for the bachelor's degree. I mean, you gotta, for the bachelor's degree, right? If for any other reason to learn C, it's for that degree. May never use it again. Not saying you won't, but I've heard stories. People learn it for the education of it and then never actually apply it. Welcome, Janescu. Welcome back to the Blazor Power Hour. We are pre-capping .NET Conf, picking through what will probably be Blazor sessions. We are on day 2 at 4 o'clock. And I would say, I mean, if you can stick around, of course, watch these sessions in between. But if you must take a break, jump over to 5 o'clock. Check out ASP.NET Core Authentication Simplified. And we talked about Stephen earlier doing some web API sessions with Safia, and then now he's joining Jeremy Lickness, and they're talking about how authentication has changed in ASP.NET Core. Notice Blazor is highlighted in the agenda here. So they have improved the way identity works, and there are brand new identity components for Blazor. And this is something I think we've been anticipating with Blazor for quite some time. So it's really nice to see that in .NET 8 we finally have that. Because, as Dukasoft says, auth is not simple. So they're trying to make it better. And one of the ways to make it better is to not require us to write CS HTML Razor views anymore to do authentication. We now have identity components for Blazor, and that makes things so much better and easier. So jump in and check that out at 5 o'clock Eastern time. And then take another 30-minute break if you must. I personally am not doing any Azure stuff. If you are, might be interesting, but if you're just fixating on Blazor like me, I would jump over to 6:30 and look at Blazor hybrid apps with .NET MAUI. Now, I mentioned there is a session on day 1, I believe it was. We'll rewind back up to day 1 for a second. I think it was one of the final sessions on day 1. If you have time, watch it. I think they're going to focus primarily on MAUI itself and not Blazor hybrid. That's just my opinion. I'm speculating they might cover Blazor hybrid. But on day 2, where did it go? On day 2 at 6 o'clock, 6:30, Beth Massey and Elon Lipton are going to focus on Blazor hybrid. So if you're looking at doing any Blazor hybrid applications where you're targeting web, desktop, mobile with iOS, Android, Mac OS, that type of thing, this is going to be the session to watch. So 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for that one. And then that's about it for Blazor content on day 2. There's a lot of tooling and stuff in there, WinForms, NuGet, lots of stuff that's related. Here's a 9:30 session about transitioning from web forms to Blazor. If you're doing that, that might be interesting. There's quite a detailed abstract here too. It's a 30-minute session. I hope Justin Yu has really streamlined that talk. That's a tough one to cover in 30 minutes, so hats off to him. Let's see. And again, we're continuing all through the night here, so it's going to be hard to catch all of that in day 1. We're going to hit midnight here and jump into day 3 now. Janescu, yes, you may see me coming up on day 3. So day 1 is keynote style. Day 2 is engineers and PMs from Microsoft talking about the things that they are releasing and they worked on in .NET 8. Day 3 is more community focus with people that submitted papers to speak at .NET Conf. So day 3, community track. And with that community track, I've got 6 sessions highlighted. So another 3 hours of content. There was 6 sessions as well on Wednesday. So that's another 6 hours plus the 4. So we're up to 10 hours of content so far that is coming, that's Blazor related. So day 3, community sessions, we're going to jump over to 7 a.m. I know I'm fast forwarding through a lot of nice folks talking about some really cool stuff here, but we're going to, again, focus on Blazor only, just for sanity's sake, because nobody can stay up for 24 hours a day and watch all of this stuff. And there's even Blazor stuff in here that is interesting to smaller groups of folks that are coming from different technologies, for example. So if you're specifically, working with a React application, you want to migrate that to Blazor, hop in at 6:30 and check out that session. But if you're not doing React, start at 7. Look at how to achieve optimistic updates with Blazor and EF Core. Again, we're talking about NET Framework Core and .NET 8 again. There was a session earlier, but this is another take on how to make your applications more performant, or at least perceive them as more performant. Could be very interesting. We'll jump over to 10 o'clock, 10:30. Building beautiful Blazor apps with Tailwind CSS. I personally am not a fan of Tailwind, but that doesn't mean that you can't be. So Chris Santee is actually a friend of mine, and he does a fantastic job talking about how to use Tailwind with Blazor. Again, I don't have to be a fan for Chris to have a fantastic talk about it for those who want to learn more about Tailwind and Blazor. And if you're going to learn it from anywhere or anyone, I would say Chris Santee is going to be one of your best choices. He does a fantastic job doing this. I did watch his entire session at DevReach in person just over a week ago. And there's very few questions unanswered in this session. So you should be able to go in, learn everything that you need to know, and start implementing Tailwind if that's something that you'd like to add to your app. So I would definitely watch that session from Chris Santee. The next one is also going to be a friend of mine, Eagle Hansen, one of the nicest folks I know, and he is the creator of BUnit. So good guy from Iceland, talking about Blazor unit testing. What more could you want from a session? So at 11 o'clock, you can check that out. Highly recommend BUnit. It's going to make your dev time a lot faster. I know writing more code sounds like it's going to slow you down, but actually writing unit tests for Blazor saves you a lot of time outside of the browser and in the IDE. Unit tests run a lot faster than spinning up your app and trying to manually peck away at problems and debug things. So if you're not doing BUnit already, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, day 3. Exactly. Who needs all that, right? Who wants to save time and money? So let's see. This sounds like a fun session. I don't quite know what to make of it. At 12:30, we've got Jeff Fritz and Carl Franklin. We probably don't even need to look at the abstract at that point. You know it's going to be entertaining with those two names involved. This one is the Blazor Puzzle podcast team of Carl Franklin and Jeff Fritz. I have a collection of brain teasers for you in this code focus session about the latest features in the Blazor framework. They'll fix bugs, check out new features, write some unit tests. It sounds like a mixed bag of fun Blazor stuff, and just should be relatively entertaining, to say the least. So just check it out. That's a good one. And then at 1 o'clock, I would be humbled to have any of you join me for integrating Blazor apps with existing web applications. So if you're doing some ASP.NET Core stuff today, and you want to do Blazor, and maybe you have a project you want to transition from Razor Pages, MVC views, any of that stuff over to Blazor, I'm going to show you how to do that. And I have quite the sample app that showcases this off. It's using, all the newest Blazor-y stuff I could pack in from .NET and Telerik UI and you name it. There's some JavaScript interop in there. I'm getting my hands dirty trying to make an application work with Razor views and Razor components all in one app, and it's actually a nice experience. to get an app transitioned from MVC to Blazor. You can mix and match these things. So you can add a little bit of Blazor here and there. You can transition a whole page. It's very flexible. It's all part of ASP.NET Core, and we'll deep dive into that at least for 30 minutes on day 3 at 1 o'clock Eastern time. So join me for that. I can give a little preview of that as well here as we're almost done with the agenda rundown. We've got one more session for Blazor specific stuff here on day 3. And to close out .NET Conf, we're going to look at, oh, was there an agenda change? I have notes here and it's not lining up with what's on the screen. There may have been a session change. Let me see if I can find it. There it is, 3:30. I must have scrolled past it. It's still where it belongs. 3:30, Steve Smith. Steve is a brilliant .NET developer and content creator. He's got sessions on up on Pluralsight, great blog, all of that. So if you're doing full stack Blazor applications, it would be worth looking at his clean architecture with ASP.NET Core 8 session. And he's just going to teach you how to write good, clean code. I mean, that's the basics of it. While it's probably very indirectly related to Blazor and .NET 8, it's still, you know, one session that I would recommend jumping into and checking out. And then sessions keep running again all through the night into 8 p.m. So you got quite a bit of content there. So again, I've got about 10 hours of stuff recommended for Blazor developers. I'll post that up on my blog here shortly later this afternoon. This is my blog. It's literally my name.com, and we'll talk about that, or we'll link that out later. Yeah, looking forward to this next week. So let's take a quick preview at the session that I've got lined up. I'm just going to load up the app and we'll talk about what's in the app. Let's get the good old Zoom It tool up and running, and then we'll load Visual Studio 2022 preview. So I'm working on release candidate 2 right now. And I've got an app here that is running, it's an older app that has been migrated up to ASP.NET Core. It's using MVC. So we've got, model view controller. We've got Razor views. And I've taken the app from using Razor views. Boy, I got a lot of tabs open. The app is running Razor views, and I've taken pieces of the application, transitioned, not migrated. We're not going to say migrate because migrate is a little bit of a loaded term here. ASP.NET Core, Blazor is part of. MVC views are part of. Razor pages are part of. So we're not taking a system and moving from one technology to another. We're just adding pieces of features of a technology to it. So I'll show you steps involved in getting there in the session. But the final bits here, when we're all done, the application will look like this. And again, it's already a built app. I'm just adding pieces of Blazor to it. So this isn't something I'm obviously going to build in 30 minutes. It's an existing app that's being updated with Blazor technology. So, from a user perspective, you wouldn't know that there's different technologies being used here. And on this page, I think we're all Razor views. But if we drill down into one of these views here, this menu, for example, is if we look at the outside shell of this application, this breadcrumb component is coming from a Razor view, MVC view, whereas this is a Razor component using Blazor. So we've got Blazor here, and we've got MVC here, all on one page. We'll drill down again and jump into a view like this. And again, the shell of this application, the similar products here are breadcrumbs, our main navigation and search. All of that is MVC. So we've got MVC. Let's see if I can remember how to do. There we go. We'll highlight here. This is all MVC. Everything beneath here is all MVC. And this is Blazor. And we're running it all in a single app. Oh, is it not sharing properly? Some folks are saying they can't see the screen. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Somehow, when I closed my browser window, it dropped my screen share. So hopefully you're using your imagination just now. But I'll go through this again. From the top, we've got a Blazor an ASP.NET Core application here. And it's kind of a full stack. Well, it is a full stack app. It's not kind of, but this is an entire application, models, views, controllers, database, the whole 9 yards, full stack ASP.NET Core app. And you'll notice in here I've been adding Razor components, but we also have MVC views here as well. So we've got all the things in one app, and it's not that hard to do, to add Blazor to the application. The end result is an app like this, where we have, let's try to get good old-fashioned annotations back up and running here. Let's get this guy out of the way. In blue here is MVC. And this actually is the shell of the app. And it has, components littered throughout, all MVC views, tag help, or not tag helpers. We could use tag helpers, but these are HTML helpers. Generating the header of the app. We've got the breadcrumb section here of the app. Everything I'm highlighting in blue here is all coming from a Razor view. This is all Razor views up here. So all CSHTML, right? This section here is all Razor components. So this is all Blazor in this section. So we've got, a component for a rating. We've got an image display. We've got some interactivity here, which is going to be an interesting topic because we're meshing these two different UI frameworks together. Even though they're all ASP.NET Core, on the front end, they are essentially two different UI frameworks and have some different methods of interactivity here. So, all of the code that's running in the purple section, it's being served up by Blazor server. It could be WebAssembly if we wanted to, but this is essentially Blazor server. And then we have things that this component interacts with, like this cart, for example. If we click on add to cart, I still need to communicate from this button click into this MVC component area and update the cart. So there, there's some tricks in getting this done, but you'll see that if I add to cart here, we've got 2 items. Go ahead and add another cart item. That's 3 items. So we are interacting with these in real time and updating that view for the user. So how do we do all that? I'm going to break it all down in detail in my session in a couple days, but I will give away some of the secrets here because I have you, and yeah, it does look like some kind of dark magic, does it not? Well, if we dig into this view, this is under product details, and it's using Razor View. So if we look at MVC style, we want to go into the views folder and find the product detail view. And here's our product detail view. Some things that are worth pointing out here is I'm using Telerik UI for ASP.NET Core and Telerik UI for Blazor. So I have components from those libraries that make things just easier to do, like adding a breadcrumb component. And this breadcrumb component is using an HTML helper. So you'll see HTML .kendo breadcrumb. So kendo is the alias for Telerik UI for ASP.NET Core, and we are rendering a breadcrumb component. If we look back at the app here, we are looking at that component that is being rendered. Let me change the color back there to blue to signify this is MVC right here, rendering that breadcrumb component. If we scroll down a little bit, we've got a component tag helper. And the component tag helper is called, or it has a type of model details. What this is doing essentially is we don't have the Razor component syntax here because it is a CSHTML file. If you look up here, you can see we're in an MVC state here, CSHTML file. So we can't just say model detail as a component like that. So we have to use the component tag helper, and we can specify it this way: component type of, and I'm even going to pass in a parameter. So let's again translate what this would look like if it was pure Blazor. It would be model details model equals model, like that. So that's essentially what we're trying to do with this component tag helper. Is we can't write this because we're in a Razor view, so we're going to write it like the line below. So we've got component model details parameter model equals model, and when I do that, I'm actually passing a view model from MVC into Blazor. So I'm saying I've got this view model that I already built for my MVC application. Go ahead and pass that off to my Blazor or Razor component, which is essentially Blazor, and then tell Blazor to render it with the server. We're going to use SignalR for that one. It just makes things a whole lot easier when you're transitioning these apps to do it server side, in my opinion. And then later on, start bringing it over to WebAssembly if that's what you'd like to do. So if we jump over to model details, come on, compiler, Visual Studio, jump me over. I actually have a components folder here just to separate things from Razor and Blazor. And then I'll switch my ink here to purple as well. You can see I've got Razor components over here. And the Razor components, I've built individual components for model details here. So model details is broken down into components. And I've got my model image, I've got model info, and if I were to dig into each one of these, I have more components. My model heading, model left and right side, and I can dig in the UI here and show you what each of those look like. So we'll do a little zoom again. So this is the model detail Razor component, and then I have model head or header that has this information, has the rating, the title, and then I have a left and a right, which I think divides up like this. The left side of the UI has the image. Actually, that one is on its own. We've got a component here as well, an image component, and then we have model left, which has the product description basically. It has the name, the product number, the size drop down, etc., etc. And then on the right, we have a component that has the total price and a couple buttons. So this is all broken down into these individual components here. So again, if we look at model left, you'll see that we've got our drop-down box and some data that we're displaying. And what's really cool about this is I just copied and pasted the existing Razor code that was in the view file, in the Razor view, and most of it just translated over with a little bit of modification. Because it was already Razor, it was pretty easy to turn into a Razor component. This is basically the new section here that has some component parameters to it. And then the way that Razor components fetch data versus Razor View is a little bit different because we can do it server side with a Razor component. And a Razor View, we have to do this client side with JavaScript. So we can take some JavaScript out of our app, and we can even interact with JavaScript if we need to, and you'll see that down here. Because the way this app worked before, when we select an item from the drop-down list, you will see a full page refresh. The reason this app does that is because it is querying a database behind the scenes and building out a permalink that gets dropped into the address bar here. Every time you select options, it actually directs you to another product, completely different product. Even though it looks like the same bike in the database, it is a whole other product ID that is querying the database to find based on the parameters that you're putting in here. So it develops this permalink and injects it into the address bar. And because of the style of app it was originally, it refreshes the entire page to make sure that you've loaded into that product, and you could copy and paste this, send it in an email, share the link, and get back to that actual product page with the options that you selected already figured out for you. So there is some JavaScript interop involved there. So just tapped into the existing code that was already in the app and just wrote a little JavaScript interop to go ahead and reuse that code. And I actually did the same thing for the buttons, because as easy as these things are to mix and match together, if we look at this header here, this is a Razor view, and we have buttons that are in a Razor component running server-side Blazor, and this piece here is updating on the client side using JavaScript. So when we click on Add to Cart from Blazor, we need to tell the front end that is written in JavaScript to update. There was already a routine for this because it was originally written in MVC, but I wanted to move some of this over to Blazor. So when I click Add to Cart, I'm not going to do Blazor server. I'm actually just going to jump into JavaScript interop and call a routine that updates this view for me. So the state management's kind of crossing into that JavaScript boundary. So it's pretty interesting that you can do that. And it makes transitioning these apps actually pretty easy if you already have the code. You don't have to rewrite everything. You can just tap into stuff that you already have. And if you look here, I've got an add to product shopping cart Blazor component event. and I'm going to call the JavaScript runtime and say, I've got this namespace that I'm using called Blazor shim. So these are things that I'm transitioning over that's going to forward a call onto a JavaScript method that I already have called add product to shopping cart. And I'm going to pass in the model ID that is bound to that Blazor component, pass that off to JavaScript, and the JavaScript bits kick in and update the MVC view shopping cart. So I did see your question. Sorry, I didn't get to it yet. I was just trying to finish up my thought there. How should I choose between Blazor WebAssembly, Blazor Server, MVC? When should I use what? That's a kind of $1 million question. It would depend heavily on what you need to do. What type of app are you building? That's the first counter question I have. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying, how many users are you targeting? What type of infrastructure can you afford? All of those things matter very significantly. First of all, like, what type of clients do you have? Are they going to be sitting at a desk? Are they known to be wired into hardwired internet? Are they roaming on Wi-Fi? All of these things can affect your decision of what technology to use. So Blazor on the server, with .NET 8, kind of the lines get blurred a bit, as you can auto transfer people from Blazor server to WebAssembly. If you're strictly looking for like proof of concept, you want to get something to market very quickly, Blazor server is going to be an easy way to do that. And then you can scale up from there and transition off to Blazor WebAssembly. So you have to keep in mind things like if users are going to be disconnected, Blazor WebAssembly is going to be a better experience because breaking a connection on a Blazor server app gets kind of messy. If you're writing a line of business app for clients that are hardwired into a network, Blazor server is going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot less development time because you don't have to write web API endpoints. You can hit services directly with Blazor server, as I can show you in this example here. When we load up the detail view, let's see, I think it's on the detail view here. On a client-side application, when we get product images and information for our drop-down boxes and things like that, we would normally call an HTTP request, and we'd have to have an HTTP endpoint. As I transitioned this app from MVC to Blazor server, because it's Blazor server, I can tap directly into the product service and not have to worry about the web API access. So I can just do all of this server side. So there's a lot of benefits to Blazor server. Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer without knowing all of the variables involved because there are quite a bit. So again, connectivity is a big one. And then infrastructure is going to be probably question number 2. If you're running Blazor server, you're going to be spending more money on your server infrastructure as you are handling all of the processing of every client that attaches to it. With Blazor WebAssembly, you're offloading all of that to the client and making their device do all the work. So the infrastructure cost is going to be lower. So you've got a lot of trade-offs there. Blazor server defend. Blazor server is great. I will defend it as well, and I think mixing and matching these is a big win. So the Blazor United stuff we're going to see next week, I think, is going to be huge for everybody. Bootstrap, I will also defend over Tailwind. I just misclicked the button there and it closed me out of my session. So yeah, hashtag wrong button. I am missing a lot of the comments though. It cleared my comment window out when I did that. So sorry if I'm not getting to all of your comments and I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let's try that again. There we go. The bootstrap tailwind discussion just blew the internet. No, I did hit the wrong button. Actually, I accidentally right-clicked as I was left-clicking, and it went to, I think it clicked back, which pushed me out of my browser session into like the home screen. But anyway, yeah, it's quite the conversation to have. All of this, you know, all the Blazor things, those should be answered. You know, the best answer to that question today is to watch dotnet conf next week. I know, I had to say it. It's just the truth, because things are going to change with .NET 8. So those choices get a lot easier to make in .NET 8, and they're a lot more flexible in .NET 8. So watch the first session in .NET Conf. And again, I'm going to post a blog post here in just a little bit at my website, detailing the sessions that I outlined, the 10 hours of content in .NET Conf that we're going to be focusing on for Blazor Dev. And I'll be boiling down and distilling this session about using MVC and Blazor together in transitioning. And then if there's time, there's some discussions also on how do I transition from web forms to Blazor? How do I transition from Angular and React to Blazor? And how do I use Blazor components in a Angular or Blazor, or Angular or React view or web forms? Yeah. Do you uh, do you have a session there, Thendel? Do you have a session to recommend? Was that something you were working on, or were you speaking from a different point of view? Oh, you've got something coming up? Nice. Ah, okay, you did it at Sweet Tug. Excellent. Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that, and I don't know if you're transitioning things with by directly like rewriting, but there's also the web proxy approach that Daniel Roth has on his GitHub page. I'm going to try to highlight it if I can. 30-minute session is tough to fit stuff in on .NET Conf. And then folks have a tendency to run over your time. So you got to really, leave 5 to 10 minutes almost for questions and possible runovers. So you've got basically 20 minutes to explain a very difficult topic. So there's there's some ways of wrapping your Razor components in Blazor up so you can use them as native HTML elements. So custom HTML elements, and then you can put those in your web forms application and just run those in your web forms app. That is a thing. You can also do that with Angular and React. So I'll try to highlight that. I don't think I'll have time to demo it just because, again, 20 minutes. This demo alone is going to probably take up most of that. And, you got a preview today of what it entails. And again, it's really really cool that you can mix and match these components. So again, back at the app, this page has a mix of statically rendered components. This one has interactive components on both MVC and Razor. And if I hit this about page, 100% Razor. Or Blazor, sorry, 100% Blazor. It's being routed through Blazor. It's a Blazor view from top to bottom. There's no component tag helper involved in that one. So routing is another place that we can add some value to our app. If we look, I've got about Razor, about.razor. This is a complete and 100% Razor component view with Razor routing, Blazor routing. So that can happen as well. So that's a nice way to start transitioning your apps. You know, you've got the component tag helper where you can start moving things over, and then when you get an entire page done, you can just say the page now is going to be a Razor component, and navigate directly to the Razor page through the Razor component or Blazor router. And then now your app is even more Blazory. Then you can start weeding out some of the views that you transitioned. So for example, there's no more about page. I know that's a simple, very simplified page. There's no interactivity or anything there. But I was able to take that out of my home directory, drop it over here, add some routing, and we're good to go. Thindle is the repo somewhere. I wish I could say no, but it is. It's up on my GitHub page. Is it in a state where you're going to find it useful? Maybe not, but it will be by next week. So I've got, this is what I'm heads down on for the next couple days, is making sure this works for everybody. Yes, you can grab the concepts from it. I will drop a link. It's an older demo, by the way, that's being upgraded to Blazor. So with that, expect some of the things that you might expect from an older MVC demo, like installing SQL Server on your desktop. That was a thing I haven't done in a while, because most of the demos have switched to SQLite. This one is still on SQL Express, so you're gonna have to have that. Let's see, where is my repo at? And you're gonna have to check through some different branches as well. Let me see if I even have, yeah, the mix components branch is probably what you're gonna want to look at for now. But there you go. There's the link. It is in flux right now, though. You can see that there's commits is coming in as recent as yesterday, and I've got 7 pending changes here as well. So I'm still tidying things up and publishing those. Yeah. So you can find that there. Some of the setup instructions. Oh, by the way, this does have Telerik UI for MVC and core in it as well. I'm using the paid versions of DevCraft, so you might have to go in and tinker with those if you want to run it. SQL Server Dev Edition. I think that might be what I'm running. I installed something SQL Server-y. SQL Server, I don't know. I installed one of them, and it's the Express, I think, version of it. Yeah, the Telerik components are in there. Well, One of the things that's important about our .NET 8 release is that the Telerik components are compatible. So I'm kind of kicking the tires as well with this demo and making sure, that is a .NET 8 repo and you saw all the components working in there. So that's a good thing. Alrighty. Oh, there is an NPM thing on that too. It's quite the real world project. Hats off to our dev team for coming up with this thing. So if you do check out and try to run this, I did see a neat feature in Visual Studio that I wasn't expecting. You used to have a plugin for this. No, I don't want to move a whole folder. If you go into dependencies now, you have an NPM node in here. Check this out. You have an NPM node now. And I don't know why we're using gulp in whatever else is in here. Don't know what they're being used for. I just know they're being used in this project. But you can right click on this and hit restore packages and it just works. Like you don't have to go to the command line and do stuff and just restore packages and it will do it. So yeah, .NET 8 or not .NET 8, Visual Studio Preview. I don't know if this is in the mainstream version of it, but yeah, we've got new context menu inside of dependencies for that. I think so. I don't think you have to have Node installed. I think it's installed with the workloads now. I can't remember if I installed it directly or not, but I'm pretty sure it comes with your web workloads. And then it just shows up in your dependency node if there is a project.json file, package.json file present. You can see it reflects this view here. And if you were to go through and remove one of these, it should, whoa, wow, it went nuts there, but yeah, it reflects that in real time. Yeah, I don't think it's an extension anymore. This isn't, I just refreshed this install and there's no extensions in it right now. It just works. You should see what I had to go through to get my Razor components to highlight correctly. So I was having a bit of a Twitter rant yesterday because this was driving me insane. None of the syntax highlighting was working. It looked like mystery meat syntax highlighting at best. It was like the coloring down here was like little bit of blue on this, purple here, red there, black there, yellow here. I mean, it was every color of the rainbow on one line. There was erroneous errors everywhere, and I had to shut down the app and go into the folder view and delete my bin and object folders and delete my Visual Studio settings and everything to get it to work. So yeah, the rainbow edition, it was more like the well, you guys type fast. I go to highlight something and it's the next person. It was the ransom note version. Like it was bad, like really bad. I can show you a picture of it. I took a snapshot of it because I was reporting it to the void that you scream in when you have a problem with Visual Studio called the feedback button. So you can rage in there and then watch it get deleted. Love you guys at the .NET team, but the Visual Studio feedback is like it's where problems go to die. So no component highlighting, nothing being highlighted there, and then this line. Look at all the different colors being injected here. We've got a dark character there. We've got some blue here. Some dark characters there, some light characters, a couple blue ones, couple red ones. Yeah, that's fun. This is totally normal, folks. Black, red, gray, blue, all in one line. Same with the Windows Insider feedback. Yeah. I don't like, talking poorly about some of these products, but this button up here, the send feedback, every time I've done it, it goes into a queue that a bot eventually deletes. So, and there's still issues from Visual Studio like 2017 that are a problem. Like, I used to have a package that installed Blazor snippets, and they were, what I thought was very intuitive ways of writing Blazor code with snippets. And the snippets just don't work anymore. They just stop working. You can install them once and they never update again until you blow out your installation of Visual Studio, and it's totally a bug. And I followed the documentation to a T to create it. And when I reported it to the VS team, they prioritized it as like nobody cares, and then it gets bot deleted. Like it's the void you scream into. You thought it was just you they ignored? No, they ignore everybody. If it's not like some earth-shattering like bug that is going to take down like a dev team working on like a banking app or something, then it gets deprioritized into non-existence. So I know, of course. I mean, it's totally. I'm gonna tell you like it is, really. Just tell you the honest truth. That's part of good DevRel right there. Is honesty, like right from the developer to the engineering folks. Just pure honesty. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna let you know. And I am like a bug magnet, by the way. So this happens to me a lot. I have the worst luck with tech. I'm surprised I'm in this field. Like if there's a bug, I'm gonna trip over it and find it. So you better watch out. Our teams at Progress know. Like they're like, oh, Ed found a bug again. Yep. Of course he would find that. Nobody else has ever seen it before. But this guy, he's the guy that finds the stuff. It's always some random thing. Like I test all the options. Like if I'm going to do file new project on something, if there's buttons to press and checkboxes to tick, it's like I'm running through all of those. I'm going to see what they all do. I'm going to show you every checkbox and what the results are for it. And we're going to build those templates out. And if there's something that doesn't work, I will let you know. Yeah, I think that's a problem. That's one of the things I find most frequently is like if it was a feature that people were using, I wouldn't be the person reporting the bug. If that makes sense. It's like I'm running into it because I'm testing all the things. I want to see how everything works, whether it's my product or not. Like I'm always curious and just checking boxes and seeing what it does. And then it's like, oh, I just stumbled onto a real big issue. Nobody else is reporting this. Like nobody's using this feature but me. Like that has to be the scenario. Either that or I'm just the most unlucky person that's ever touched software. But I think you're pretty right. Like most people just open the thing, do their one task that they are carving out of a much bigger application. Yeah. Okay. I think we're at a stopping point, folks. I think we've got a good .NET Conf ahead, and hopefully everything goes smoothly. And, good luck to presenters from the community that are joining, and the .NET teams as well. Wish everybody good luck with .NET Conf. When you have bits in motion, you've got a release coming up, and you've got 104 sessions that people are prepping for. Things can break, and it gets frustrating. And you need to fix a lot of things on the fly. So I'm going to try to keep my bits probably at release candidate until the presentation is done. I might record some of these bits, who knows, but you really have to prep for these bleeding edge .NET Conf style things. They're tough. They are tough. So especially for the stakeholders, right? If my demo fails, I can pass blame. If their demos fail, they are, especially, PMs like Daniel Roth, like I really, really feel for people that have to demo these things on day zero, because if something happens, you're right in the firing line for the reason it happened. So good luck to them. Very, very much good luck to them. Let's see. It's all Guthrie's fault. Yikes. That's tough. That is tough. Let's not blame the guy in the red shirt. All right. .NET Conf, check it out. I will blog post this soon, and I've got all 3 days summarized. Trying to write like a 1 sentence at least for each session on why I think you should watch it. And then I'm going to post that up on my blog. Yeah, don't blame the guy with the Blazor power glove. He's not the problem. I'm not. I just find the bugs and report the bugs. I am not your problem. Let's actually see if there's somebody we can raid. Let's drop over to Twitch. See if anybody's streaming. I'm totally not the guy that accidentally closed on my own software earlier. Visual Studio team is talking about Git. Let's see. Finite Singularity is on. Not quite sure. He's doing some gaming stuff. Might be interesting. We want to jump over to gaming or Visual Studio talking about Git. Adventures with GitHub. Microsoft Dev Labs. Let's see. Code Rushed. He's a good guy. We are friendly competitors, I would say. Let's see what is Code Rush talking about. Dev Express. That probably wouldn't be the best choice for me right this minute. We are friendly though. Let's see. Stream Deck integrations. We will bounce over to the Visual Studio team, and we will see how they are doing. Let's see here. My chat window. I need to get over to, I'm trying to remember how to do a raid here throughout. All right, there we go. Raid Visual Studio. We'll do it right through the command line here. Boom. Oh, really? It's not going to let me do it that way? I got to, hang on. I got to do my dashboard login. I got to log in through the dashboard. Then it'll let me raid. There we go. It gives me the right admin privileges. But it was great seeing everybody. I will see you next week on .NET Conf, and then probably starting in January, you might be able to see behind me, right about here, is a fancy device called a Quest 3. Starting in January, we're going to see if we can publish a Blazor app to that thing. So that's going to be our 2024 project right there. We'll see you at .NET Conf. Take care.